Welcome
to Film Shapes,
the podcast.
Oh mijn god, dit is goed. Dit is echt goed.
How does he do it?
Tjuk, tjuk, tjuk. Stond gewoon oog in oog met Rembrandt.
Every time I went to bed, I had Madame on the right and Monsieur on the left.
All right, hi people. How are we going? Roly, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
And Merv, how are you?
Well, thanks.
Fantastic. Now, we're here to discuss the Revelation Film Festival. We all saw a bunch of them. I think I saw 9. You guys saw a couple each, right?
Yes.
Let's kick off with my Rembrandt. Merv, what did you think about this one?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was an interesting little film which delved into that whole world of high art, big expensive paintings. I know nothing about it. It was it was interesting.
Roly, you didn't catch this one, did you?
No, I'd like a synopsis, please.
Okay. It's a guy, an art dealer in Holland, discovered, or so he thought, a new Rembrandt. When I say new, I mean undiscovered before. They thought it was
the school of Rembrandt.
Some of his acolytes had done it, but actually, this guy suggested. Actually, I think Rembrandt himself painted this one.
Oh.
And I guess it is now. Can we spoil it? It is a Rembrandt, isn't it? Are we
yes.
It definitely.
Yes, it's multiple people have said it is a Rembrandt.
Okay. But that should be the central guts of the story, but it fucked around a fair bit, didn't it?
It did. Particularly, it seemed to. There was a bit of a controversy in there.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I got lost when we started talking about the controversy. We introduced some character who obviously didn't want to be interviewed, didn't want to be kind of been seen, but we kind of referenced, and he was related to some other person, and there was a falling out. But we seem to be more concerned about the Scottish Duke bloke who was set up a new room for his Rembrandt, and the annoying American who kissed his painting.
Yeah. There was a lot of you were thinking it's just to flesh out the characters around the Rembrandt.
Well, I think it was to show the passion people have for this Rembrandt, and the realistic style of him, and just how they're amazing paintings.
Yeah,
they really do draw you in. I think the Scottish guy, it fit well. I think he had the nun painting, didn't he?
Yes,
and
was she a nun? She just have a fancy headgear.
I thought she was a nun.
Really? Okay.
And she's there reading, and if you kind of sit there, oh, who's that? Oh, it's a painting of a lady. But, they are quite powerful paintings. And,
and
I guess that was important to show the power of Rembrandt, but at the same time,
I'd never really appreciated him as an artist, I guess, because he just paints a lot of people, right? Yeah.
I think you have to see what was there before. And then suddenly, I think that's where, again, I don't know enough about art history to know this, but I think before it was a lot flatter. And then suddenly, these craggy, textured faces, and
they were happy with ruffles, weren't they?
Yes.
Look at the detail in this ruffle. Look at the wrist ruffle. It's beautiful. It's very detailed.
And that's what sealed it. Not the sloppy shoulder, but the wrist ruffles.
Yeah.
So they somehow established that it is a legitimate Rembrandt?
Well, even in the film, it's not ascertained. I think later on because this happened four years ago. Yeah,
about that.
So I think now it has been ratified as a Rembrandt, but in the film it kind of ended too like they jammed it in too quickly. I don't know.
It sounds like a similar theme to a film I saw recently called Who the Fuck is Jackson Pollock?
Oh,
have you heard of that one?
No, I haven't.
No.
Yeah, the lady finds a squiggly looking painting, comes into her possession from a pawn shop.
Okay.
And
a what?
PAWL.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And basically she's kind of a trailer park kind of lady, but she gets involved in this kind of art world, and basically she eventually realizes that nobody's ever going to legitimately say that this is a Jackson Pollock. Well, one of the, this is getting onto another film, but they have a fingerprint specialist guy that comes in, and he's an art specialist, does a lot of work on paintings, and finds a lot of evidence from the type of paint that is on this painting to what was found on Pollock's floor, and he's sampling it at a micro level and
X-rays and things like this as well. Okay,
yeah,
That's much like the expert in the Rembrandt one, the guy who so they had this one expert whose whole life is it, and he counts threads on the backs of canvases to find out if paintings are from the same rolls of canvases
that they've been snipped off.
Yeah, so that's kind of that level
Crazy.
of forensic. But
Yeah.
so it gets sent to the
Rijksmuseum.
Rijksmuseum, and they kind of look at it, but you don't hear the results. And then the main expert guy, no, it's not a Rembrandt, and he has a weird little fit or something as he's looking at it. It's kind of a bit weird. Then suddenly comes back, it's a Rembrandt because of the ruffles. You're like, there's more
So
to
are the
this.
ruffles to do with the paint? The ruffles are
The detail and the texture. So
of the
it's-
brushwork.
No, of the sleeve of a fancy
Oh, okay.
costume
So-
person.
Yeah, most of them are, the days of ruffles and a lot of lace decoration on clothing, men's and women's. And I think it's that detail which Rembrandt was famous for. You can kind of almost feel the texture and the knots and the sewing of the lace. And that's part
Have you seen any other art films that might compare to this? And I wonder how it relates.
Do you mean like as in, is this the real thing kind of?
Yeah, art documentary, which around. There was that one. Was it Paul's Vermeer as well? That was made by
Tim's Vermeer.
Who's Paul? I don't know who Paul was.
He had
Tim's
another one.
Vermeer. Did you see that one?
No, I
that
haven't
was
seen
another
it.
interesting.
Yeah. He was
thing along the
recreating
same
a painting, wasn't he?
lines.
Was he trying to get a light box to recreate it or something?
Yeah. He was looking back in history and saying this is how these paintings were probably done. It wasn't just purely by eye; they were using kind of early photographic techniques almost, and mirrors and things like that. So,
No, but I did watch that BB series, Fake or Fought, had Fiona Bruce, someone where they went off and checked paintings, and the dealer went around and he went to experts and they checked to see if it is a fake or of the school of, or if it was by famous artists. And I kind of enjoy those shows. So this is my I enjoy historical research. That's kind of what I enjoy doing and things like that, and that examination and so I found it interesting. But when I learned that half the film was kind of one of the director's previous films.
Oh, yeah. There was a battle between the Louvre and the Rijksmuseum in Holland.
Was the funniest part of the film.
About a married couple on individual paintings. Some guy was a Rothschild dude was trying to sell them, and France and Holland got into a bit of a diplomatic row about it. But that is another film that she's made. This director, Uga Hoogendijk, I think is the... Anyway,
remember.
she's made that film already. I don't know why she had to wedge part of that back into this. So I don't know. It seemed like she wanted too many brush strokes. Anyway, on that terrible gag, shall we move on to another one?
Sure.
Roly, this is one that you and I saw. Desert One.
Desert One. Now, was this your most hated film of
the festival?
Because I know you mentioned that all the films you kind of enjoyed except for one.
No, two of them I didn't really enjoy. But this one I didn't like. Do you want to tell us about Desert One?
Well, it was kind of... I haven't really got the synopsis handy, but it deals with the Iranian hostage crisis of, what was it? What are we talking? The
1979, wasn't it? 70, 79?
Yeah, where the Shah was in power. He got toppled, fled to the US, and a bunch of students basically invaded the Iranian embassy,
the US embassy,
the US embassy in Iran, and held these people captive for
over a year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
yeah, long time,
18 months or
something like that.
Something like that. And this documentary basically outlined the botched rescue attempt, which was kind of a major embarrassment for the US at the time. I found the story really interesting up to a point, and I think you and I are both in agreement that it got kind of just really flag wavy at the end and kind of just made you feel like, oh, well, we're only hearing one side of the story now.
I mean, it's sort of flirted with that parochialism all the way through, I thought. The Iranians, I think they talked to 3 Iranians, and 2 of them were just black and white evil. You know, like there was one, there was an interpreter and there was a hostage taker. And they were just, every clip they took of them were, look at these evil Iranians. Aren't they evil? Aren't they nasty?
I didn't necessarily get that.
You didn't really?
Actually.
Okay.
No. But, yeah, I didn't come away thinking... I think, though, yeah, there was less information from the Iranian side than I would have hoped for.
Do you know, it sits kind of... You know the film Argo, Ben Affleck directed? It's kind of a little companion piece to that, isn't it? Like, Argo is about the people that did escape and went to the Canadian embassy, and then they had to get away in other means.
Oh, yeah.
And this one is about, I guess, the hostages who stayed and the attempts to get them, you know, through off the Gulf of Oman or somewhere like this, right? Yeah. So it's a kind of who got away and who didn't, I suppose.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how many Iranians were killed in this whole
in this botched
process.
attempt.
Yeah,
I'd say 0. Apparently,
it seemed like 0, but I would be very surprised if there weren't some casualties
well,
because they did. Like the Americans came and landed next to a highway somewhere in the middle of the night, thinking that it was going to be completely deserted, and next thing there's a bus. A bus comes past with tourists, and then another truck, which they blow up. Yeah. But somehow, apparently, someone runs away from that and hops in another car.
Yeah.
Whereas the American deaths, which were
very
through
glorified.
their own botched efforts, not through any Iranian military intervention.
Yep.
The American deaths were kind of, held up because they brought the bodies back into town. And I mean, that woman. That I will say one thing. That woman. About the Iranian woman that was saying she was at when they uncovered the bodies. Yeah. Back in the city. She did come across as kind of evil.
Right.
She was saying the blood looked like chocolate coming out of the mouths and things, and she was kind of having a giggle about it.
But I mean, she may have said a lot more than that, and the director's chosen that bit to put in, you know? I mean, we don't know for sure.
Yeah. So basically, I think we don't trust this film.
No. No. There were good interviews. They even got Carter, who's still alive, Jimmy Carter. I didn't realise this. And Walter Mondale, his VP, to talk about it. And they came across pretty well. And you hear a lot of the talk between the commanders of that failed attempt back to the White House. And Carter comes across reasonably sound, maybe a little bit weak, if anything, doesn't he?
Well,
I guess a
lot of it led to his defeat, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, Ronald Reagan, I think, largely used it against him and said, it's too little, too late. But at the end of the day, the hostages were returned.
Did the use of animation? I mean, I just saw the preview for it,
I think that was good.
No, actually. that was one of the really effective parts of the film because they didn't have footage to support some of these, where they brought the plane down into the desert and a big dust storm blew up. And so they had, it was one of the choppers actually. Yeah. So suddenly they were not one, but I think 2 choppers down. But the animation in those segments was really helpful, I thought, to the reading of the story. Wondered,
did it kind of suddenly you almost felt like you're watching 2 different movies in a way? One's a cartoon and the other one's a...
I would actually say that, that was one of the more positive aspects of the film.
Yeah. There was this thing, I don't know if you noticed this, that they suggested that Reagan waited, like they could have released the hostages earlier, but he waited until after the election to get them out, like he set it up with the Iranians. He said, keep them in there until the election's finished, and then when I win, or after I'm, not when I win, but after I'm, what do you call it?
President?
Yeah, when you get, like, in January,
inauguration.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
After I'm inaugurated, then announce that they've been released. So actually kept them there for a few months or weeks longer than they needed to.
I have a feeling it was even less than that. It was...
Well, it's only...
Or the agreement was struck at least, almost like 24 hours after
But he didn't want Carter to have any credit at all for getting this done, which he actually did. But Reagan said, no, after I'm inaugurated, then we'll announce it. So it sounds like a trick he might pull. Yeah.
I'm also a little confused how it actually even, because you're just president-elect. You can't actually officially speak to anyone or...
Oh, really?
Well, you're not
sure
president yet.
Sure, Merv.
And, your people aren't in power yet.
Well, the CIA stays the same, though, so presumably he would be talking to other people that are there throughout.
I was really looking forward to this one, and it just, that's probably the reason I didn't.
I would say the first 2/3 of the film I found...
Yeah, they were pretty good.
To be quite good, but then, it did sort of focus a lot more on, the heroism of the US soldiers and
we weren't
their
the heroes.
sacrifice.
There were some heroes, but it wasn't us. It was kind of, it's a bit of just too cheesy for me.
Tad jingoistic.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. All right. Hey, let's flip over to another one. Something that we saw, Merv. What do you want to go with? Oh, what about Collective?
Yep.
Go for it. What's this about?
It is about how humans are complete scumbags. It's the best way to put it. It's following the collective nightclub fire. Starts off about the deaths of a whole bunch of people in the burns unit from infections, and it just goes on about the corruption within the Romanian...
Where is it? In Romania?
Sorry, yes, the Romanian health system. And was it the great work that a sports newspaper, which they seem to press, did in uncovering this, and just the shitty people that
this is
ran the health system in Romania.
The whole government.
The whole government. It's just...
This is the best film for me at the doco. I love this. I thought it was fantastic. It's a domino effect. Like this guy's looking into it. These people have died, young people, at this fire. Then later on, in the next few weeks, more of them, probably 30 or so
about
of them,
that, 27, 30,
die because of bacteria infections from the hospitals where they're supposed to be treated. They're not allowed to go into other countries to get treated like they were hoping to because of just red tape and pride and all this kind of shit. Corruption. Yeah, and then they uncover some of this. They uncover dilution of
disinfectant.
Yeah, disinfectants in hospitals. They get onto that guy. He somehow mysteriously dies in a car crash. Then there's other the health minister, who's such a wanker, then has to resign.
Yes,
and a new health minister comes in who seems like a good bloke. He's almost the hero of the story.
Yeah, he was a patient advocate.
Yeah.
Because at this time, the government is actually technocrats. It's an unelected, because the government got kicked out after the fire,
Yeah.
And so it's run by what they classify as technocrats. So no one's elected. It's kind of and it's all coming up to a new election.
Right?
Yeah, it's all coming to a new election. My only criticism, I said, it was a great film. It reminded me of Spotlight. Even the real life people kind of, you see the characters in some of those, any good reporting, news movie. It's kind of got those similar characters. I don't know the word I'm looking for. The grouchy, that's the word I'm looking for. Lead reporter who, asks the hard questions and is rude to the people he's interviewing just to get the answer. The tired, world-weary female reporter, she was there, and the young gun. The guy still got they're all there, and you're kind of like, this is almost feels like a script, but they're real.
It does. It sort of plays out a bit like one of those 70s like Frankenheimer or Pakula kind of political thrillers. Yeah.
But my only criticism is just scandal after scandal after scandal. You're kind of like, oh, this is, and then there's another one. You go, huh? And at the end, I was kind of a little bit like, huh.
Well, maybe it says something about me, but I love the bleakness and the just sort of no hope of this film.
Yeah, there's no hope. The end of this film is walking going,
yeah. Well,
they're fucked.
Well, if this is a spoiler, I'm not sure, but the party that are probably to blame for much of this gets re-elected in a bit of a landslide at the end of this film.
Yeah,
so
it's just...
Youch. Yeah. And the reporters are getting threats from about their investigation.
Yeah,
watch,
but all
watch
in
your
all,
backs
it's a
kind of
great
stuff.
film. But as I said, my only criticism is at the end, I'm just like, when the next scandal comes along, you're just kind of like, meh.
It's another scandal.
Another scandal.
No, I loved it.
Yeah, they're scum of the earth.
Yeah, almost. No, I mean, that song at the end with the dude, the cut at the end is a bit abrupt, but that's minor. That's a minor.
Well, I think that's just the nature of the film because it's a fly on the wall documentary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just pure filming people do things.
Yeah.
And then editors make the story. There's no interviews. There's no nothing. It's just as it happens, fly on the wall style. So it kind of just starts and kind of has to just end.
Yeah. So, Roly, if you need to see one more film from this festival, that's the one. Collective.
Okay.
Recommended.
Okay. High on your list.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Hey, let's go to another one Roly and I saw. What's the last one, Roly?
That
you
would be
saw?
The Trouble with Being Born.
Yeah, okay. This is the controversial one that got banned from the Melbourne International Film Festival. Tell us why. Why was it banned?
Well, I can't tell you why the Melbourne Film Festival
Sure you can.
banned a film.
Sure you can.
But I can tell you the film is basically follows well, in the first part of it at least, it follows a father who's living with an android in the shape of a young girl. So I think the idea is it's kind of a near future alternative reality kind of situation. But the young girl is a replica, or the android is a replica of his daughter.
Yeah.
Who it turns out has gone missing years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it gradually becomes apparent that the relationship also has a sexual element to it.
Okay, that's where I didn't think that was apparent.
Yeah, I think it's hard to...
Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm too naive.
Well, this is what the film does, because it doesn't overtly show you anything of a sexual nature, but it allows you to gradually make a series of assumptions and then question yourself about why your mind is making those assumptions.
Yeah.
However, I do think that is the purpose of the film. Like it's you are supposed to think, even though it's not shown, you're supposed to imagine that this is a sexual relationship just through the fairly minor things that happen. The father touching the daughter for a little too long.
The daughter.
The daughter android. Well, the daughter herself does come back in the film as well.
Does she?
No. Well, I mean, she comes back, but is that supposed to be in his imagination or not? I'm not sure. There's definitely a case to say, well, she was never really there, but she does share a likeness. So the android has been made in the likeness of the daughter. Yeah, but it's hard not to be very, very suspicious. Very, very suspicious that there's a sexual relationship going on.
There's one thing that made me go, oh, maybe it is. She's been taken by a dude to help his mother or his grandma? His mother, I think. So the android is actually modified into a boy.
Yeah, well, so the android gets lost
halfway
first of all and splits off with the first part of the story is basically done away with at that point.
Pretty much,
isn't it?
Yeah. And during that time, when she's in another apartment with this old lady, this android starts moaning. Do you notice that? She was in bed and she's making these sort of sexual moaning noises. Couldn't even work out why that was.
Well, that's what I mean. So, a father falling asleep with, his daughter on the floor of the lounge room at one point, I think, is shown in the house, for instance, and I think they're cuddling or something like that. Nothing overtly sexual there. But then the next shot is of him.
He's nude.
In the morning, nude.
Odd.
Getting up from there. So little things like that make the messaging of the film is more subtle than... I mean, it has to be.
Well, it's European as well, right? Maybe everyone sleeps nude.
There's also there's also quite an intense shot of the android with... the naked android with the kind of legs spread open, and it's obviously CG at this point.
Yeah, of course.
But he's taking out what you would imagine would be the vaginal module of the android, and he's washing it in the sink.
Wasn't that the tongue? I think
he takes out the tongue first, then he takes out something from the bottom there, and he goes off to the side. And he's washing it, so you're sort of going, well, why would he be doing that if this isn't some sort of fleshlight kind of thing?
Yeah,
and
Yeah, of course.
So there's a lot of little things like that. That was the most obvious moment for me.
Yeah, right.
But what the film does then is take this android and puts it in another context where she becomes, as you were saying, the helper for an old lady. But
her long lost brother from 60 years ago.
That's right. Yeah. So they change the sex of the android to a boy somehow.
Yeah,
and there's a dog involved as well. There's a dog there suddenly, a pet dog. And this old lady, she's really dislikable, isn't she?
Yes.
I mean, even her dog doesn't like her.
Yeah,
her dog decides to follow the android when the android goes off and does its own thing. But
did you enjoy this?
I did. Well, I mean, it was uncomfortable to watch. It left me with a strange feeling, but it's a film. I enjoyed it in as much that it's a film that made me think.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a sign of a good film to me. It makes you question. I think that idea of creating technologies in our own image, with the idea that this is going to somehow improve our lives, but really it's that cyclic nature of just performing these meaningless rituals over and over again. The androids, at the end of the day, they're not real people. They're not depicted. They're still depicted, or this android is still really, at the end of the day, just a machine.
Yeah,
and it becomes very apparent. But it's humans anthropomorphizing the machine.
Yeah.
For their own purposes, and it kind of makes humans look very sad, really.
Pathetic, yeah. I mean, he was just completely bereft, this guy, wasn't he? His daughter disappeared 10 years ago. His wife is not around. She's not even mentioned. So,
yeah, well, it makes you wonder, did he have something to do with the daughter's disappearance?
You can read a lot into it, I guess. Yeah. I enjoyed it. It's very much a sort of it's quite mysterious in parts. Like the time structures are all over the place. Like when the daughter came back, was it the daughter? Was it the android? Weird. Yeah, it's hard to. Maybe you need to talk to the director to say, what do you mean with all this?
Well, I think it's a good example of not having to say too much and letting the imagination
that's
work
true.
For the film.
And you can analyze it in your own way, I suppose. Yeah. I liked it. I don't know if I enjoyed it, but I liked it.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I'd definitely recommend it as a film.
Yeah.
For anyone that's seeing these other films, technology, AI-based interest, anyone with an interest in that side of our current society, I think it's definitely a film worth watching.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Okay, let's move on. Merv.
On that high note.
On that high note. Oh, Merv, Archive, another sort of AI film.
Yes, I really like this film. I was all surprised at how much I like this film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's all about, I guess, a husband and father trying to deal with using AI to deal with loss again.
Yeah.
It's where people can be archived when they die, and he's trying to
can be archived, meaning
their conscious can be archived digitally or analog. Sorry, and it's about him trying to transfer this consciousness into a machine, into a robot. And you see, he's working in this facility. It's a fantastic, I'd call it cyberpunk world. It could fall straight. I mean, it could fall into Ghost in the Shell. It could just slot straight into that world. It steals a little bit from Ghost in the Shell in a couple of scenes. It could even slip into Blade Runner. That sort of world. And it's just done really, really well. And there's a twist at the end. I thought it went one way until I realised, oh no, it went another way. I actually gasped.
Did you?
Yeah, because my brain jumped to a different thing at the twist, and then went, oh no, this has happened. Of course. Yeah. But the way if it went the way my brain jumped, it was even wow.
Yeah, I like this too. It's similar in theme to The Trouble with Being Born, but it's less creepy, I suppose.
Yes,
and it's almost a one-hander, I suppose. There's one main actor in it, throughout. Theo James, he's
Yep.
the scientist or the designer of AI, and some other people pop in. And I guess his creation, half of her, it's sort of like a torso of her, for most part, is his supposedly ex-wife. That's what I was going with?
Yeah, well, yeah, she's definitely a representation of his wife who died. But even then, the other iterations of the AI, which are far more boxy, robotic, they had, and they represent kind of the ages of the development. So the first one is a toddler, stumbling around. The next one is, let's be honest, is a moany emo teenager.
Yes, yeah.
But they worked really well, and the guy he showed concern. He showed genuine love for these robots.
Yeah.
Yes, he was using them, and yes, he was a bit of an arsehole as well.
Yeah.
But he did treat them like almost his children.
Yeah.
And the setting, this beautiful, stark Japanese wintry mountain with this aging, fallen apart old research center.
Yeah.
And then when he does delve into the town, suddenly you see the modernism, the cyberpunk, and the kind of security guy, almost that classic in cyberpunk world, Mr. Johnson, appears. And
You're over my head now. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
I delve a little bit in some of the cyberpunk and the Shadowrun worlds, which are quite fun. And and you can tell he's an android. He's
that dude's
modded.
an android.
He's probably human, but he's got lots
okay.
of mods. You can see kind of the weird lines in him. He's got that fake skin.
Oh, I didn't. I didn't get that. I just thought he was a nutter.
No, you could tell he's been augmented.
Okay.
He just looks like he's been heavily augmented. So that that range of you still need a human being, but you can make them mechanical and such. So, and I love the world. It was just a nice little tiny pocket of a really big, amazing.
Yeah.
And your brain just kind of extrapolate out into what this world really was.
I agree. I mentioned to you as we left that maybe it went a little bit flat for me about 2/3 of the way through, and then it picked up again. It could have been a bit shorter. That's all.
Yeah, it was heading. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But then I think just about the right time they made the twist. They turned. They brought in. Well, I said when he gives his AI legs.
Yeah.
And suddenly she was mobile. She was more active.
Sure. Yeah.
And they build up that relation between them and where's it going, and his sudden rejection. You go, why is he rejecting her?
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then again, in the end just answers that.
Right.
So this one I tried not to
We
be
don't want to say
spoilery
much about
because
this, yeah.
You can't really, but it just... Yeah, I just left that feeling just really buzzed and really enjoyed it.
Would you recommend this to Roly?
Yeah.
How would you rate it? Because I'm actually a fan of the original film for this genre in a way, which is Kubrick's AI.
Oh, I would.
And
jump
you
in
guys
before that.
don't know.
It's not Kubrick.
What?
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
it was Kubrick Spielberg.
Yeah, you got
wasn't
you.
it?
Okay, yeah.
I actually think that was a really interesting film, and I think it was doing what these films are doing in a way, quite a few years before that. And I found parts of that film really moving as well. So chances are, if I see this, I'll like it as well.
Yeah, and it's small where AI was just too big.
I did want to draw you on some of that because
Didn't you think, I was going to mention this with the trouble with being born, because that android sort of gave me that porcelain feeling that little kid had in that film. I didn't like AI. You know this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate it as well.
Boring.
Yeah,
So boring.
I just think you're wrong. You're both wrong. I think it was a very underrated film.
I think this go more to, it's more like, it's almost like the Blade Runner, in a sense, this one of,
Yeah.
they're kind of like, well, what's my purpose? And they're questioning what their purpose is.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if I said I fell asleep and
It's
watched
interesting. All these Android films, they do. That's
Yeah.
the kind of theme. Eventually, the robot starts asking, "Why am I here?"
Yeah,
and you realize, oh, it's just a stand-in for us, really, isn't it?
So this, I guess, they also got, but they all got to directly ask their maker though, which is the maker who is actually there.
Well, that's why
Being challenged,
Roy Batty went back to find his maker.
Yeah.
Fuck him up. Yeah. It's better than AI by a long
Shorter.
way. Shorter, more interesting. less cheese.
I always thought with AI it felt like there was a certain point, and I know it probably didn't work this way, where Kubrick made the beginning of the film and then Spielberg made the end.
Maybe.
It felt like there was a definitive line when the kid gets dropped off in the forest.
Oh, maybe.
And suddenly it went very like the walking teddy bear and the
Right.
Yes.
and the Thunderdome, the robot Thunderdome, and
Jude Law.
Yeah, Jude Law.
Oh,
he was very good.
Really?
Yeah.
Never been worse. Oh, hang on, that's a tough one.
Well,
he's often pretty bad.
I would argue with you more, but it seems Shady that you've gone up a level of late. No, I think we do need to mention a little congratulations on on some of your pursuits reaching the big time recently.
I don't know what you.
Well, shouldn't we mention some of your blog? So you've had some extra writings filter through the internet.
Yeah, that magazine Film Inc. published a couple from the Revelation Film Festival that I did. Yeah,
congratulations.
All right.
It's come good.
Yeah. No cash, of course. It's just, that's good. Yeah,
maybe there'll be another free film in it.
There might be
a cinema ticket down the road.
I think there might be. Yeah. I'm looking into that. Now, these are the only films that you guys saw, right? We're done with those. Can I just briefly touch on the other ones that I saw? I saw a doco called I, Human, which was pretty good. I reckon, Roly, you saw something like this a few months ago.
Yeah, there was an Australian one called AI. What's it called? No, Artificial Intelligence. I think
was it? Okay.
God, yeah, I think it was called that.
Right.
Which, it seemed very similar, and it actually put me off.
Yeah, I thought
seeing another film like this. I've seen quite a bit of stuff like this.
Yeah.
Was there anything special about it, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there were some things that I didn't know much about, like Google having a military contract called Project Maven, where they're doing some AI for military drones and things, and they don't want anyone to know about it.
Oh, okay.
In fact, Facebook and Google rejected the chance to appear in this. There are some pretty funny... There's a lot of talking heads, and there's some good ones and there's some odd ones as well. There's a guy called Jürgen Schmidhuber or something like this, and he's an absolute bellend.
Did they have a self-driving car?
Yeah, they mentioned
expert?
those, I think. There's human rights people. There are something called an angel investor. I had to look this up. What the fuck is this?
It's
an angel investor.
Someone that's got too much money.
Yeah,
so
don't
that they can... They actually can throw independent money at interesting projects.
Okay.
So would that be a bit like, the guy who created Napster, I think, is one of the main original funders of Facebook. I think he was like the angel investor.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Or something like that.
Yeah, basically, if you've got a project, they don't really... They're not seen in the wild in Australia, I don't think, angel investors.
No, they're very much so. They roam the valleys of San Francisco.
Okay. No, this had... talking of animation, this had really good visual effects, if you could call it animation. Yeah, really good, in fact. There's some stuff about the post-privacy age. Have you heard of this? How we have to learn to navigate the post-privacy age.
Yes. I think in the European Union is very much bringing in laws about people allowed to have digital privacy, and you're allowed to wipe yourself, I think, from the internet as such. So, it's very causing a lot of, particularly in Europe, where they're introducing a lot of legislation about your right to not exist in the virtual world as such. Because we leave such a footprint. But you do, the right to have all that removed.
They do go on about like the fact that, yes, we're going to continue to discover and to create AI, and finally it'll become self-learning, and then we're all fucked. Okay, so why don't you guys just stop? Just stop now. And they're like, no, we're going to keep doing it because, there's a possibility that it'll be better for us. Okay, just give it up. I don't know. It's odd.
How much of that is driven though by movies, where nearly every AI does turn out to be an evil?
But these are the even the father of modern general. What's it called? General
artificial general intelligence.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that guy's saying, that it can go either way. He's saying it's 50-50. It'll be the end of us, or
how is it the end of us? As in,
they won't need us, is what they're saying. AI,
I mean,
AI will decide, well, we don't need these humans. And one guy's suggesting that the planet will be covered in solar power grids and huge generator factories or buildings or whatever, and nothing else. And that's it. Because the AI don't need to worry about trees, for example. Think on that, Merv.
Yeah, well, it may be the case that where you humans are just, we've evolved to this state in order to create the next stage of evolution,
Right.
which may not be based on flesh and meat and bones.
Exactly.
It might be an electronic silicon-based life form that takes over, but I think that's a fairly big stretch. I think it's more likely that we're just a very vain species that we just persist in trying to recreate ourselves through the technology, but the technology is not necessary. It's going to be able to do a lot of things better than our brains can, but whether or not it'll ever achieve that kind of idea of consciousness or and become a legitimate art of
Does it need,
even the idea of creativity, it teaches us more about creativity than if we suddenly create a robot, make a robot that can be creative, as we understand, that's going to teach us more about our definition of creativity than it be a convincing life form. I don't think it necessarily means it's alive just because we've created a complex machine.
Does it need that pinnacle? Does it need to be exactly like us? I think for the negative side of it, it just needs to be clever enough to realise it doesn't need us. And then we're fucked.
Well, there's
plenty of things that we don't need, but we happily let it exist.
One of the guys I spoke to
like cockroaches.
a while back, he was an expert on self-driving cars, and he was talking about artificial general intelligence, and he said, well, if we did truly create a conscious, intelligent, artificial general intelligence, I see no reason why it would want to do anything at all.
Oh, that's
why would it choose to do something rather than nothing?
Yes, right. What's the motivation for it?
Yeah.
I think the guys at Science-ish, that podcast, said much the same. One of their interviewees said, once it gets to that level, it's going to have all the possibilities, and it's also going to have the choice to do fuck all.
So basically, AI's going to be a sulky teenager just sitting in this room.
Sitting in a box.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, that's quite, thought-provoking film, I thought, that one. I'd check it out. What else? Oh, Atlantis. This was so boring.
Is this the other one you didn't like? Okay.
Yeah. I reckon this had... I was trying to count it up later. I reckon it had probably about 20 edits in the whole film. I'm probably exaggerating a bit here. Every shot seemed to be a locked-off shot, long shot, or wide angle. Things happened in the frame, which is all right, fair enough, but for a long time. And, I kind of enjoyed the fact that I was sitting there watching it. Do you know what I mean? Just to see how much more I could stand.
Wow.
It wasn't terrible. That's the thing. It was quite a well-made film, but the form was so kind of, wow, dude, come on. Do a cut of some sort. Do a pan, man. Just fuck. It was really, what's the word? There's a sort of a word for this, and I've forgotten it in literature, where everything is just sort of so stark and quite dull.
Minimalist?
Yeah, and maybe that formalism, is that the...
It sounds almost borderline theatre in a way.
Yeah.
It's almost, that set scene, people move within the stage.
Yeah.
So a little while back we interviewed Richard Suwada from Revelation
That's right.
Film Festival. Why do you think this film made the cut then?
Did
Shady?
he?
What's the positive about this one?
This one is the one that he recommended, I remember now. Of the top 5 that he... Sorry, Richard, if you're listening. I think it's quite bleak. It's trying to say a bit about...
But you like bleak.
Yeah. That's true. Well, why didn't I like this? There's a film that reminded me of this called Once Upon a Time in Anatolia by a Turkish director, and that was fantastic. Very bleak, but you've seen this, Merv?
No.
Okay. That was also bleak, but in a different way.
Like Snowtown bleak. That was pretty bleak.
I haven't seen that. That's just blood and guts, isn't it?
No.
No? Okay.
I might be there. I didn't make it to the end. It was so bleak, I switched it off.
Well, I don't know.
Pretty intense.
The director of this film, I think Richard was talking about this. They made a film called The Tribe a little while back, which sounds quite interesting.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe they just thought this would be a companion to that. I don't know. It was hard going. I'd like to know why they chose this. But
I hope this isn't the last thing we're going to talk about on this
podcast.
It's
not. No. Let's move on.
It would be a terrible place to end it.
Let's move on. Crock of Gold, the Shane McGowan documentary. Fantastic. Yeah, really good. I saw that straight after Atlantis, and it was quite the different film, shall we say. Thousands of cuts, lots of different snaps.
You were doing how many? What was the maximum amount of films you saw in a day?
4.
You saw 4 films
4 in a day, then 3, 2, and then 3. And one day I didn't see any. Strangely, I just saw the animation stuff. But yeah, no, this McGowan pick. I don't like him that much. I don't like the Pogues all that much either. But this was a really good documentary. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit cautionary. Don't do drugs. Don't get pissed all the time. But also, it celebrated his life and his heritage, his Irish heritage too. So, some strange talking heads. Johnny Depp, who was a co-producer.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Jerry Adams from Sinn Féin was in it as well.
Wow.
And Bobby Gillespie, I think, is he from Primal Scream or one of those?
I think you might be right.
Is that right? And then his biographer and his wife, they're all sort of chatting with him, and he's had it. I mean, he's 60, but he looks about 80, and he's almost pushing up daisies, shall we say.
Wow, okay.
But he's still funny. He's still compos mentis, I think. So, it's really good. I'd recommend that. And the final one to talk about, just briefly, The Jump.
I wanted to see this.
Yeah, this was a good film. Yes, it's quite good. It's got more balance than something like Desert One, but it's in the same ballpark. It's a political. One guy, a Lithuanian sailor, tries to defect one day in 1970, I guess. 79, 70? I'm getting those dates mixed up. He is thrown back to the Russian ship, which is kind of contravening all the refugee laws. And then he gets put in gulags for a few years, and finally he's released. But for some reason, I won't explain that because it's quite a nice turn in the film. And this character's great. This is Simas Kudirka. He's a crazy old. He's still going, and they did some recreations with him on the actual ship that he jumped to as an 80-something-year-old fella.
Oh wow,
it's quite and he's great. Yeah, he wanted to get away from Soviet Union at the time, but he didn't necessarily want to go to America. He just wanted to go. He just wanted to be free. I think that's what it's all about. He just wanted the freedom away from the Soviets. It's a really good doco. One of the there were a lot of good docos at this festival that I saw, and that's probably second to Collective only. I think that one. So. Yeah. So in summing up, I reckon Collective for you, Roly. That's the next on your list.
That's the next on my list?
Yeah, maybe Archive.
Thank you.
Yeah,
definitely Archive. Both of them are good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure, because Archive did look interesting, but again, it's, I'm a little bit full of this subject matter sometimes, so it's...
Well, that's kind of like Richard was saying, it's kind of the theme of that festival. Yeah. But I had a great time. Fantastic.
Great. Well, most of these films, they're freshly released at the time that they're in Revelation. Are they going to be available elsewhere?
I think they're all, like some of them are still showing, or maybe they've just finished the online Rev stuff, haven't they? A couple of days ago.
Well, actually, it's worth noting as well. I think Revelation does have an online...
Festival?
Yeah, they've got an online program available year round, I believe.
Yeah,
it's called Rev on Demand.
Yeah, that's right. From many festivals ago, right?
I assume that they they get agreements from previous films to put them up, but that might take a little while for the latest festival.
Right.
And I think I have seen some advertising for Archive, so obviously that's getting another wider release.
Okay, great.
Crocker Gold is showing now, I think, at the Luna as well. So I guess you have to search for some of them, but a lot of them will pop up again as well. So, Okay, guys, thank you very much for this little summary. Yeah. Cheers, Merv.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roly.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye.
Your songs broadened our sense of ourselves. Redemption, sorrow, the ordinary person's story.
You were pretty queen of New York.
Are you content with what you've achieved?
No, I wanted to more.
The boys of the NYPD choir were singing "Go Away, Babe," and the bells were ringing out for Christmas Day.
Actually, we're better when we're sober, but it's not as much fun, so we get drunk.